Today I want to talk about constructing a good, fully developed body paragraph. Hello and welcome to In the Classroom, an educational podcast making teaching and learning more transparent. My name is Benjamin Stewart at benjaminlstewart.org, and today's September 5th, 2021. Before we get into today's topic, if you have any insights or want to share any of your experiences related to today's topic, feel free to reach out to me at my Twitter handle at BNLEEZ. Today I want to talk about building a body paragraph. Those of you who are taking communicative abilities in English 1, we last week started talking about developing our first essay. Today I want to talk about the specifics to building a complete body paragraph and give you some examples and kind of get into the weeds a bit and how you can think about developing your own body paragraph. Today's discussion will not include the introduction paragraph, nor will it include the conclusion paragraph. Those two will have its own way of constructing and organizing ideas. Today's discussion, again, will focus only on the body paragraph. So, as we start week 6, we're going to begin constructing our essay, and in many cases, we're going to begin with the body paragraph. In fact, I usually encourage writers to not worry too much at the beginning of the writing process on the introduction paragraph or on the conclusion paragraph. A lot of times, it's best to start with one body paragraph. In fact, the one that you think is the easiest to write, maybe the one that you feel more prepared to write about. Today we're going to talk about the acronym M.E.A.L, as in the meal plan. And if you do a search for the meal plan paragraph development, you'll get a lot of different sites. You'll get a lot of results. So make sure that you're looking at or referring to other sites that also explain basically the same that we're going to be talking about here today, just to get additional insight. But when you're developing your body paragraph, think of developing first the main idea. The first sentence of your body paragraph typically will begin with the main idea or the topic sentence. You can think of the main idea as being a claim. You can think of it as being the main point of your paragraph, the main proposition. Think of the main idea as a claim that is arguable. So we're not going to begin a paragraph with a rhetorical question or any kind of question for that matter. We're not going to include an imperative or a command. It's going to be a declarative sentence that should present an idea that is debatable, that's arguable. Think of a debate where you have basically two sides of an issue. A main idea should articulate one side of the issue, the key point, the key main idea of that body paragraph. One of the hardest things to do when developing a body paragraph, in fact, is coming up with a good main idea. Not only is the main idea arguable, but it should also flow and connect with the overall thesis of your essay or of your paper. So if you look at main ideas of all of the body paragraphs, if you just skim through each of your body paragraphs and look at the relationship between each main idea or each topic sentence, there should be a logical flow of ideas. There should be a logical pattern or a reasoning pattern that allows the reader to see the overall organization or flow of ideas from beginning to end. So the first sentence of your body paragraph should be a main idea. I typically suggest not to include the verb to be. I also suggest in the main idea to avoid personal pronouns, all right, just so that there's no confusion about the antecedent of the personal pronoun. So make sure that you're using subjects and nouns, noun phrases, that you're specifically articulating the idea instead of using pronouns. The evidence sentence of your body paragraph, this is going to be where you're going to include examples, details, facts, statistics, and when you're writing an academic text, this is where you're going to include citations. So think of the evidence as always coming from an outside source. In academic texts, we're going to avoid anecdotal evidence that's just based on personal experience. We're going to bring in outside sources to provide better support for or to the main idea that we're articulating in that first sentence. So think of the evidence sentences as citations, examples coming from an outside source, and this is also where it's a good idea to review the APA style, the publication manual for APA, in terms of how to both cite and provide references. Now, at the time of this recording, the 7th edition of the publication manual for APA has been out for about a year or so. So we have some students who are moving from what they are familiar with from the 6th edition and now needing to make some changes, oftentimes, especially in the references, according to the 7th edition. So this SWAY presentation that I'm sharing here with you has some examples. Of course, you can find examples online. Just make sure that you're looking at examples that are correct and they're updated according to the 7th edition. I've included some of the more common types of references that you'll find: books, academic articles, journal articles, dissertations, and there are different types of dissertations, whether it's published or not published, whether it has a DOI or not. We have book chapters here. So take a look at some of these examples when you are writing out your citations and references if you're not sure about how to do that. Now, the analysis sentences, this is where you're making a connection between the evidence sentences and the main idea or the topic sentence. Just because you're including good pieces of evidence doesn't mean that the reader is going to automatically understand how that evidence links back to the main idea. So this is where the analysis sentences that you're creating, you are now making those connections. You're talking about how something happens, why something happens. Think of like, well, who cares? What's the significance of this? Explain yourself. Right? Analyze, explain, compare and contrast, comment, discuss it, right? These are all ways that you can think about what goes into a good analysis sentence. And every good body paragraph that's fully developed will have an analysis. One of the common mistakes that writers will make is they will mistake an analysis sentence for an evidence sentence. They will think that the sentence they're writing that is analyzing the evidence to the main idea is actually just another piece of evidence. And this is where oftentimes we have problems with plagiarism, by thinking that the idea that we're writing out is functioning differently than it actually is. Just ask yourself, is the sentence I'm writing out, is it an original idea or is it not an original idea? If it's not an original idea and it's not common knowledge, you need to have a citation. There should be no doubt in the reader's mind whether the one particular sentence that you're writing is original, coming from you, the writer, or if it's coming from someone else. So be very careful. Also, when you're writing out these sentences, each sentence should function as one of these options. All right, don't make the mistake of trying to provide evidence and analyze that evidence within the same sentence. Always separate the two. Each sentence should be classified as one of these four areas. Is it functioning as the main idea? Is it functioning as the evidence? Is it functioning as the analysis? Or is it functioning as the linking sentence? So the analysis, provide an explanation. Now the link is either going to provide a transition between the main idea of the current paragraph to the main idea of the following paragraph, or you could conclude a body paragraph with a summarizing sentence as an alternative. It really depends. A lot of times if you're writing a body paragraph and maybe that body paragraph is at the end of a section or even at the end of the essay, then it doesn't make much sense to link. You don't always have to link, but it does provide a good transition, a good way to write cohesively when you're connecting one paragraph to the next. And this will allow you to write a main idea without beginning with a transition. As a general rule, I suggest the very first sentence of your body paragraph not to include a sentence connector, for example. Just begin with your topic for that paragraph, the point that you're trying to make, or the proposition, and continue your idea in the predicate part of the sentence. But the final sentence should be either a linking sentence or a summarizing sentence. Now, let me go back to evidence and analysis to give you a couple of additional considerations. Number one, the evidence should always precede the analysis. Try to present the examples, the details, the facts, the statistics, and then bring in your comment, your discussion, your explanation, your analysis. Now, you can present, if we're looking at sentences, the number of sentences, you can present all the evidence within the body paragraph first and then analyze that. Or maybe it makes more sense to provide a little bit of evidence and then analyze, and then a little bit of evidence and then analyze throughout that same body paragraph. You really have a choice. And try to make that decision per body paragraph. That is, ask yourself this question for each body paragraph when you're looking at the main idea and you're asking yourself, what's the best and easiest way for me to explain myself? What's the best and easiest way for a reader to understand what I'm trying to say? Would it make more sense if I presented all of the evidence and then analyze it? Or is it best to break it down bit by bit, small piece of evidence, analyze it, small piece of evidence, and link it, right, and then analyze? Try to make that decision on a paragraph-to-paragraph basis, based on each body paragraph. Other things to think about when you're presenting evidence and analysis is the overall organizational pattern that's going to best be most appropriate for that body paragraph. Are you going to organize it by process, by category, chronologically? Think about what's the best way to present the what, the how, and the why, and the when, and the where, and the with whom in terms of the evidence. You can usually classify pieces of evidence as being associated with one of the question words. Are you explaining, or are you presenting an example of how something happens? Are you presenting a detail that expresses when something happens, and so on? So sometimes when you're thinking about the question words, maybe it makes more sense to explain the why and then the how, or maybe it makes more sense to explain the how and then the when. It just depends on the ideas that you're presenting. But make these decisions about organization and what comes first, and always make sure evidence precedes analysis. And the second thing is make sure you have a good balance between evidence and an analysis in the same body paragraph. We don't want to have too much evidence and not enough analysis, nor do we want to have too much analysis on just a little bit of evidence. We want a good balance between the two, paragraph to paragraph, body paragraph to body paragraph. All right, if you need an example, I have here on my screen an example of an analysis of a body paragraph according to the M.E.A.L plan. So you might want to take a look at this to get a better understanding of how each of these sentences are functioning. The last thing I'll say is pay very close attention to transitions. And what I mean by transitions, we can use sentence connectors as a way to transition from one idea to the next, sentence to sentence. We can use introductory phrases like prepositional phrases to connect ideas from one sentence to the next. We can also use subordinating clauses to begin a complex sentence. Usually that is a good way to connect an idea from a prior sentence to the current sentence. So sentence connectors, introductory phrases, even gerund phrases, right? We can use clauses, subordinating clauses to begin a sentence. So don't think that sentence connectors are the only way to connect ideas from one sentence to the next. Don't overuse the same sentence connectors, and don't overuse sentence connectors. Okay, again, try to mix it up. I think introductory phrases are really a good way to also offer transitions. So try to mix up those transitions. Make sure you're using the correct transition. There are categories of transitions. Some transitions show addition. Some show contrast, right? Some are related to time as far as like chronological, first this, then this, or second, first, second, third. So make sure that you're using the right type. Make sure you're mixing it up. And if you can do that, then you're offering a good way to show cohesion throughout your body paragraph. All right, I think we'll stop there. Those of you who are taking class with me, the meal plan is going to be something that we're talking about a lot. We're going to be talking throughout the semester. Remember that the academic text, the things we talk about in terms of the meal plan, make sure that you adapt this and consider this anytime you're asked to write an academic text. You may be asked to write a text according to APA, and anytime you hear the term APA, then you know you're going to be writing an academic essay using formal conventions, and make sure that you're getting the information that you need to write an academic text according to APA. If you have questions about citations or references, again, the 7th edition, there have been some significant changes, especially in terms of the references. So make sure you're seeking out help when you need it in terms of the references and how to adhere to APA so that we have no issues with plagiarism. The last thing I'll say here is I will typically refer to body paragraph in terms of the meal plan. There are others that list this as, or they use the acronym P.E.A.L, P-E-E-L, and it's basically the same thing, but they refer to P as point, what's the main point of the paragraph, the 2 E's, examples and explain, and the L stands for the link. Again, it's basically the same thing, but know that there's a lot of information online that you can find if you need to look and find additional examples. This has been In the Classroom, an educational podcast making teaching and learning more transparent. Thanks for listening.